as a child, I remember for my 7th birthday, I received this beautiful toy car. It was cool because it was the first remote control car that I ever had. And of course, about a week after I received the gift, my sister broke it. She threw it off the 2nd story window and it broke. And I was so sad and furious that she did that. So, as any child would do, I got even. I remember I broke her favorite doll, and then I felt good about it after that. I was like, you know, it's even now, you know, an eye for an eye. But as Miller would say, it is far easier to forgive an enemy after you've gone even with him. And I believe that to be wrong, actually. And it has been proven by what happened during World War II, with the U.S. forgiving Japan for Pearl Harbor, during the Civil Rights Movement here in the U.S. with Martin Luther King, you know, and other civil rights activists. Like after they received their rights, they didn't attack, you know, the whites that had oppressed them. And also, lastly, the third is what happened in South Africa when when Nelson Mandela was incarcerated. When he became president, he did not attack the people who had imprisoned him. And of course, I would like to begin with Nelson Mandela. You know, when he came to power, he had the opportunity to attack the people who had imprisoned him, but he decided not to, because even though he had been punished and been hurt by these people, he did not want to get even with them, because he did not want to bring himself down to their level. Then, of course, also, like before his time, before Nelson Mandela, was Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King went through the Civil Rights Act. He was incarcerated also. He was shot, unfortunately, but he never once preached that people should revolt and abuse other people the same way that they have been abused. He always preached that you should be equal with your fellow man. And lastly, during World War II, the U.S. was bombed, but we were wrong for attacking them. We were justified in attacking them, you know, to defend ourselves. But we got even with them, but it wasn't really for malicious purposes. We were just trying to defend ourselves, even though we did drop a H from on them. But we did end up forgiving them, but we really forgave them for the right reasons. You know, we got even with them, but it wasn't really getting even with them. So in conclusion, I do not agree with the quote from Miller that says it is far easier to forgive an enemy after you have gone even with them. So, and I believe that Miller is wrong and that we should be equal to each other.
All right, Mark, I thought the opening had a lot of enthusiasm in it, and you started off pretty fluid, but as you went through the speech, you got a little bit less certain about things, a little bit more hesitant, and that was kind of odd. I'm not sure. Usually people kind of gain confidence while they're speaking, and it starts flowing a little bit more smoothly. You seem to kind of go the other direction. I think you probably had your opening planned really well, and then when you got to the secondary points, you weren't quite as sure as where you were going with each of them, and so as a consequence, I don't think that it went as fluently as it might have in the last couple of points. You did have a preview of the supporting material, but it was interesting that when you got to the structure of the speech, the organization was backwards from the way you had set it up in the preview. So you said, well, here are the 3 things I'm going to talk about, and then you went to the last one first, and I thought that was a little unusual. Maybe that's because that was the one that you felt the most confident on, that you had the most material on. I thought that you were very expressive with your facial expressions throughout the presentation, and your gestures sort of went with the pacing and the voice thing. I think you started off really effectively and engaged, and then the less certain you were in the latter parts of the speech, the more contained you were, the less involved you seemed. And you know, instead of really engaging the audience at the end, it seems kind of like, well, I guess I've run out of things to talk about. But I thought it was well organized. You had some good examples that you talked about. You were a little bit unable to clarify what you were saying on that last point. I thought that was a little confusing. But the presentation things were generally solid. All right? Thank you.